What's going on, guys? It is your boy Wilbur, and we have some big news coming out of Boston, Los Angeles, and of course, Washington, D.C. So, it's not official yet, but Kristaps Porzingis is going to be a Celtics. Yes! Oh, man, this is exactly what the Celtics need. So once again, it's not official, but we'll break down kind of what this three-team trade is going to be, kind of what we're expecting, and kind of see, what pieces kind of fit with what team, and kind of just rate who won the trade. So the Boston Celtics will be receiving Kristaps Porzingis, who last year came off probably one of his best seasons since he's been in the NBA. Of course, his first few seasons with the Knicks before his entire fallout with that team happened, and then he was traded to Dallas and then to Washington. Porzingis, I believe, averaged about 23 points a game, got his three-point shooting up to around 40%, and this guy was also he was catching some blocks. He was swatting them into the stands. So the fact that the Celtics can receive Porzingis, having Time Lord Robert Williams at that center spot, and also just being able to switch in and out with Horford, who could play the power forward spot and kind of basically become a backup. It allows you to take Horford and put him into the backup spot because he's of age. Horford is 30, I think he's 37. So he's getting up there in age. So you kind of want to preserve him for when you're going to face, the 76ers. The last 3 years, we faced the 76ers in the playoffs. So it's nice to save Horford's body and his freshness for when you go up against Joel Embiid, because he be clamping that boy down. And then you also just allow Robert Williams to kind of just take control of that center position. Now, of course, it all comes down to health, but let's just get into the pieces. I know I was just going in about this. I'm just happy. I'm a Celtics fan if you don't know, but I'm just happy that Porzingis is with the team. So the Celtics will be sending Malcolm Brogdon to the Clippers, which, to me, I like that fit. This team, if we were talking about defensive teams in the NBA, the Clippers just added they just added another stud on the defensive end. Now, of course, Brogdon over the last few seasons has been injury prone. It's not the Brogdon that had that breakout season, I believe it was 2 or 3 years ago with Indiana, but Brogdon can still kind of maybe fit in that role of starting point guard, averaging between 12, 15 points a game, more towards the 12 side because, of course, you have Paul George and Kawhi. But he's someone who can still, shoot the three well. He can defend very well. It's not the Malcolm Brogdon of Milwaukee days where that guy was like a top 5, honestly, defensive player in the league. That dude could lock up. But the Clippers acquiring Brogdon, it's very good. It kind of muddies the ground of what's going on with either Chris Paul or Russell Westbrook. I think the team would lean more towards Russell being that, sixth man, because I don't think you kind of want Brogdon and Paul on the floor together if you're not going to put Brogdon in the sixth spot. But then again, you also have Chris Paul, which you theoretically, if you were going to sign, a lot of people were like, why aren't they just going to have the Wizards send over Chris Paul? Well, they can't do that because they don't want to pay that salary. So they're going to wait for the buyout. And then if they decided to get Chris Paul, that's when you would get him for the veteran minimum contract. So the Clippers do receive Malcolm Brogdon. So basically 1-for-1. And then Washington, they get Marcus Morris, which, he may end up just getting bought out. You get Amir Coffey, which I'm actually a big fan of. You get a somewhat younger, definitely get a nice young player who he can put up points. Looking at the stats, I know from the 2022-2023 season, it wasn't anything crazy. But if you looked at some of the games that Amir Coffey played when he was actually getting the starting role when Kawhi was injured, when Paul George was injured, this guy, because I also had him in fantasy, he was putting up some games to where he was pretty impressive. Let me see if I can pull up and kind of showcase some of the games where this dude was, putting up straight points, putting up straight buckets. Let's see. I believe it was in December. Let me check. It's either in December or November that this guy was starting to put up some buckets. Or if I'm not remembering correctly, it could have been also from last year. Maybe it was last year that Amir Coffey was popping off, but I think it was 2 seasons ago. Amir Coffey was popping off, and he was doing the things that needed to be done because, of course, Kawhi and Paul George are just always injured. They're just injury-prone players. The Celtics going to be sending over Danilo Gallinari. I can't roll my R, so I can't do it like Stephen A. Smith. But Danilo Gallinari will be going over, and there will also be some draft compensation, but that has not come out yet. Danilo, would have loved to have seen what he could have done with that Celtics team, but of course, he did tear his ACL in preseason doing international basketball during the offseason, so it did suck to kind of see that. But if he becomes healthy, I could also see a buyout happening because the Wizards, I'm going to make a video about this, but guys, if you're a Wizards fan, I feel so bad for you because you guys waited too long to trade away Porzingis. I'm sorry, my phone's going off right there. You waited too long to kind of get rid of certain players when you should have. Think about 2 to 3 years ago, Paul George goes for all these draft picks. Last year, Gobert goes for 7 draft picks, and you got what was it, like 3 or 4 first round picks, and you give up someone like Bradley Beal. And in that trade, you only really kind of got 2 second-round picks. Landry Shamet is a nice, decent player, but he's nothing compared, of course, to Bradley Beal. And then for the Porzingis trade, you're most likely not getting any extra first besides the 30th overall, which they did get from the Clippers, which is it's basically one of the last picks in the entire league. But it still has value. It is a first-round pick into the second, so there is some value there. I know a player like Jimmy Butler was a 30th overall pick in the first round, so there is still some value to be had there. But the fact that, you gave away Bradley Beal, you gave away Kristaps Porzingis, and you're going into I call this a poverty rebuild. I'm talking about depression rebuild. I'm talking about Wizards fan. Your team will not be good for the next 20, I won't say that go that far, but you won't be good for the next 10 years max. And when I mean good, you're not even going to have a 500 season in the next 10 years. One, Kyle Kuzma opted out. He's becoming a free agent. He does not want to stay for a rebuild. You lost Bradley Beal, you lost Porzingis, so you lost all 3 of those guys for literally 2 second-rounders, Landry Shamet, Amir Coffey, Marcus Morris, and a 30th overall pick. You waited too long, and there's a new regime in Washington, D.C., so I can't really put it on them. But come on, guys. This is just if it's time to go, it's time to go. And this is something to where I think a lot of people in the D.C. area may resent Bradley Beal for that, to where they would have preferred him 2 to 3 years ago. And this is just a shitty situation if you think about it, because Bradley Beal is he's a baller. But I had him in fantasy 2 seasons ago when he started to start running into these injuries. And look at the value that you got from him now. 2 years ago, if you traded Bradley Beal, you're at least getting 2 first-round picks. You're getting back a decent young player, and then maybe a 3rd or 4th-round pick, maybe a couple pick swaps. But now you get nothing. And just like in this Porzingis trade, you got more, I think, in the Porzingis trade than you did for Bradley Beal, which is crazy. And no, that's not nuts clapping. That's the hands clapping for my man Brad Stevens, a beautiful, amazing coach. But Danny Ainge, thank you, my brother. You groomed him into the next Danny Ainge. And guys, this dude basically took Enes Kanter and like a second-round pick, I believe it was, or 3rd-round pick, and you turned it into Kristaps Porzingis. So Knicks fans, y'all could hold these nuts. I know Knicks fans are going to be mad. I can't wait to see Porzingis dropping dimes, dropping bombs, shooting threes on the bum-ass New York Knicks just to rub it in. But Danny Ainge groomed Brad Stevens to be the wheeler, the dealer, the snake dealer, the poker table 21 blackjack dealer, fucking up the casino. Brad Stevens is going in. He's really showing like, hey, there's value to be had. There's, if you got, you got. Bozo, you got. We're not going to get into all the details and everything like that, but the Celtics come out looking like winners. Now, of course, it's all about injuries. It's all about staying healthy. Can Porzingis stay healthy? If he does, there's ways for the Celtics to use them. He stretches out the floor even more. He's taller. The wall for Giannis becomes even bigger because you can then put Porzingis in that blocker position, the second help defender in the center position. And then you can also do a lot of nice switches because Porzingis is, that 7-footer. So he can switch in and out on the pick and roll and kind of give guards. I'm not saying he's going to be able to fully keep up with a guard like a Kyrie Irving or, let's say even like a Jrue Holiday, but he can kind of stay with them enough and use his length to make up, to try and potentially get any blocks or just to contest any step back 3-point shooting or anything like that. And then also on the back end on defense, with the pick and roll as well. I'm sorry, on the offense with the pick and roll, he could pop up around like the free throw area, so it's hard to work a zone around it. And guys, the trade itself is just amazing. The Celtics really come out here, really pushing the envelope, pushing the needle to go for this championship. This could be that piece that you add to it. It's like, okay, we're going to re-sign Jaylen Brown. We're running it back. You're looking at a team probably of Marcus Smart, Derek White, probably because you lost Danilo and Malcolm, will go to that 6-man role because I believe Grant Williams is done with the team. I don't think Joe Mazzulla really liked the fit that he had, though I loved him. He, to me, was kind of like a mini PJ Tucker, great on the defensive end, and then he would just basically spot up for corner threes. So Grant Williams is out, so you kind of have to just stick Derek White in that 6-man role and be like, hey, if you can give us that 6-man role of 15 to 18 points per game off the bench, that's exactly what we need you to. And then you'll still have someone like Al Horford coming off the bench. So by moving Al to the bench, you then have this way, because you have Sam Hauser, and then you can theoretically sign, I believe we do have one more mid-level exception with the trade. So I believe we're able to get someone, I believe it's like 3.5 or 5 mil. So we can add someone to the team. So all I know is the Celtics, that's a win-win. The Wizards, you waited too late. This is what happens when you wait too late. And this is kind of where Bradley Beal wanted to be loyal to the team. But because Bradley himself wanted to catch that bag, now that he's traded, you really didn't get much for him. And then when it comes down to the Clippers, you get Brogdon. But once again, we got to see, is it Westbrook? Is it Chris Paul? All I got to say is, Celtics, we winning it all day. I'm calling them the championship favorites in the East, in my opinion. Hey, don't hate me. Hate the game, not the player. It's been your boy Wilbur. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, become part of the notification gang, on that gang, Blueface baby. And we'll see you in another one. Peace.